Isadora Fielding has everything money can buy and a future perfectly planned. Tomorrow she'll marry tech billionaire Nathan Crawford in the wedding of the year, cementing a powerful alliance between two dynasties. But when soulful musician Jonah Price performs at her rehearsal dinner, one look between them ignites something Izzy has never felt in her carefully orchestrated life: genuine connection. As the weight of family expectations crashes against the pull of her awakening heart, Izzy must choose between the golden cage of privilege and the uncertain freedom of following her soul. This is a story about the courage to rewrite your destiny when love calls your name. Before we start this story, comment below for where you are watching us. The Napa Valley sun shone brightly on Fielding Estates, the most prestigious winery in California. Workers scurried around the vineyard, hanging thousands of twinkling lights on the ancient oak trees. White roses and orchids flown in from Paris were being arranged by a team of florists. Tomorrow would be the wedding of the year, the union of two powerful families that would make headlines across the country. Isadora, Izzy Fielding stood at her bedroom window, watching the preparations below. At 25, she was the picture-perfect bride, tall, slender, with honey blonde hair and the poise that came from a lifetime of wealth and privilege. As the only daughter of Victor Fielding, wine empire magnate, she had been groomed since birth for a marriage that would strengthen the family legacy. Knock, knock. Her mother, Eleanor Fielding, entered the room without waiting for a response. Always impeccably dressed, today she wore a designer pantsuit and pearls, her silver blonde hair styled in a perfect bob. There you are, darling. The wedding planner needs you downstairs. Something about the seating arrangement. Izzy sighed. Again? We've changed it 3 times already. Well, that's what happens when you're marrying into the Crawford family. Everything must be perfect. Eleanor walked over and adjusted Izzy's cashmere sweater. Nathan's mother called. They'll be here in 2 hours for the rehearsal dinner. I'll be ready, Izzy promised, forcing a smile. When her mother left, Izzy sat at her vanity and stared at her reflection. She looked tired. The last 6 months have been a whirlwind of planning, fittings, interviews, and photo shoots. People magazine had already dubbed them the power couple of the decade. Nathan Crawford, son of tech billionaire William Crawford, was the perfect match on paper: handsome, wealthy, and from the right social circle. You should be happier, she told her reflection. But something felt missing. Downstairs, the mansion buzzed with activity. The wedding planner, Melissa, a stressed woman with a tablet permanently attached to her hand, rushed over when Izzy appeared. There she is, our beautiful bride. We need to finalize the music selections for tomorrow. The string quartet has some questions about the processional. Whatever you think is best, Izzy said automatically. Oh, and the band for the reception just arrived. They're setting up in the courtyard for tonight's rehearsal dinner performance. I think you'll be pleased. They're very exclusive. Izzy nodded, barely listening. Another decision made for her. Another detail arranged to showcase the Fielding-Crawford union. As evening approached, Izzy dressed in a pale blue designer dress that her mother had selected. She applied her makeup carefully, hiding any trace of doubt behind a perfectly composed face. The reflection that stared back at her was beautiful, but somehow hollow. The Crawford family arrived with their usual fanfare: 3 black SUVs and William Crawford's personal security detail. Nathan stepped out looking like he'd walked off a magazine cover in his tailored suit. At 28, he was considered one of America's most eligible bachelors, until Izzy had accepted his proposal 6 months ago. There's my beautiful bride, Nathan said, kissing her cheek. His cologne was expensive, his smile practiced. Ready for our big weekend? Of course, Izzy replied with the same practiced smile. The rehearsal dinner was set in the courtyard, with tables arranged around a small stage where the band would perform. Over 100 guests mingled, drinking Fielding's finest wines and discussing the merger that Victor Fielding and William Crawford had recently completed, a business deal that seemed to coincide conveniently with their children's engagement. You two make such a handsome couple, cooed Beatrice Crawford, Nathan's mother, as photographers circled them like sharks. The perfect match. Thank you, Mrs. Crawford, Izzy said politely. Nathan squeezed her hand. Mother, You should see the honeymoon villa Dad arranged for us in Santorini. Private beach, full staff. Nothing but the best for my son, Beatrice said proudly. Victor Fielding joined them, clapping Nathan on the shoulder. Tomorrow, you'll officially be part of the family, son. The Fielding-Crawford alliance will dominate both the wine and tech industries. Izzy felt a chill despite the warm evening. Alliance. That's what this was. Not love, but a merger. As dinner concluded, the band began to set up on the small stage. Izzy watched absently as the musicians arranged their equipment. The lead singer stepped up to the microphone to test it, a tall black man with broad shoulders and expressive hands. He wore a simple black button-down shirt and dark jeans, standing out among the sea of tuxedos and designer dresses. "Check, 1, 2, he said, his voice deep and rich. Something about that voice made Izzy look up. The musician was adjusting his guitar, completely focused on his instrument. When he began to play a few test chords, the notes seemed to float across the courtyard, cutting through the chatter of the wealthy guests. Then he sang a single line, just to warm up, but the raw emotion in his voice silenced the conversations nearby. It was real, unfiltered, nothing like the perfectly orchestrated music that usually played at Fielding events. Izzy found herself walking closer to the stage, drawn by the sound. The musician looked up, and his eyes met hers. They were dark and intense, seeming to see right through her practiced smile and perfect posture. For a moment, neither looked away. "Miss Fielding," Melissa appeared at her side. "Is everything all right?" Izzy blinked, breaking the connection. "Yes, fine. Who is he?" "The singer?" "Oh, that's Jonah Price. Very talented, very exclusive. His band usually performs at much larger venues, but he owed me a favor." Melissa looked pleased with herself. "His music has won several awards. I've never heard of him. He doesn't run in the usual social circles, but his talent is undeniable. I thought he'd add something special to your reception tomorrow." The band began their first number, a soulful cover of a classic love song. Jonah's voice filled the courtyard, genuine and passionate. Izzy couldn't take her eyes off him. Nathan appeared beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist possessively. "Not really my taste," he murmured. "Dad prefers classical music for these events." "I like it," Izzy said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. Nathan raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Throughout the evening, Izzy found herself listening intently to every song. Each time Jonah sang, it was as if he was telling a story, his story, not one crafted for him by publicists and family expectations. During a break, she noticed him step away from the stage toward a quiet corner of the garden. Without thinking, she followed. "Excuse me," she called softly. Jonah turned, surprise crossing his face when he saw the bride-to-be approaching. "Miss Fielding, is there a problem with the music?" "No, not at all. I just wanted to say that I'm enjoying your performance. Very much." He smiled then, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Thank you. That means a lot. Your voice, it's different. Real. Just singing what I feel," he said simply. "That's all music should be." "I wish it were that simple," Izzy said, not entirely sure why she was confiding in this stranger. "Isn't it? Feeling something real and expressing it?" Jonah asked, studying her face. Before she could answer, Eleanor Fielding's voice cut through the night. "Isadora, there you are. The Hendersons want a photo with you and Nathan." Izzy turned to see her mother approaching with a fixed smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Duty calls," Izzy said to Jonah with a small shrug. "It always does," he replied, something like understanding in his eyes. As she walked away, Izzy felt something shift inside her. For the first time in months, maybe years, someone had looked at her, really looked at her, and seemed to see beyond the Fielding name and perfect exterior. Later that night, as the party wound down, Izzy found herself watching Jonah as he packed up his guitar. His movements were careful, loving almost, as he placed the instrument in its case. When he looked up and caught her watching, he gave her a small nod. Something passed between them, recognition, perhaps, of two souls seeing each other clearly. Nathan approached, placing a proprietary hand on the small of her back. "Ready to go, babe? Big day tomorrow." "Yes, of course," Izzy said automatically, allowing herself to be led away. In her room that night, Izzy couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, looking out at the vineyard where tomorrow she would walk down the aisle. Everything was in place: the dress, the flowers, the press, the guests. The perfect Fielding Crawford wedding. But for the first time, she allowed herself to acknowledge the emptiness inside her. Her relationship with Nathan had been carefully curated from start. They looked good in photos, said the right things, attended the right events. But had they ever truly connected? Had she ever felt that spark of recognition she'd experienced in just a few moments with a musician she'd only just met? Izzy pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window. It was just pre-wedding jitters, she told herself. Everyone got cold feet, but as she finally drifted off to sleep, it wasn't Nathan's face she saw in her dreams, but dark, soulful eyes that seemed to see the real her. Morning came too quickly. The mansion erupted into activity as the wedding day began. Hairstylists, makeup artists, photographers, and coordinators filled Izzy's suite. She sat still as they transformed her into the perfect bride, adding extensions to her hair, false lashes to her eyes, contouring her already slim figure with strategic dress construction. "You look absolutely stunning," Eleanor declared when they were finished. "The Crawford family will be impressed." Izzy stared at herself in the mirror. The woman who looked back was beautiful, yes, but also a stranger, a creation designed for magazine covers and society pages. "Mom," she said suddenly, "were you in love with Dad when you married him?" Eleanor looked startled. What a question to ask now. Of course I was fond of your father. He was a good match, ambitious, from a good family. Love grows in a good marriage, Isadora. But were you in love? Eleanor's expression hardened slightly. Marriage isn't about Hollywood romance, especially for families like ours. It's about partnership, building something that lasts. Nathan is perfect for you. Handsome, wealthy, well-connected. Do you know how many women would kill to be in your position? Izzy fell silent, recognizing the futility of pursuing this conversation. As the morning progressed, she went through the motions, posing for pre-wedding photos, accepting congratulations, smiling until her cheeks hurt. Through it all, she felt strangely detached, as if watching someone else go through these rituals. During a rare moment alone, she slipped out onto the balcony for some fresh air. Below in the garden, she spotted Jonah and his band arriving for the reception. He carried his guitar case, laughing at something one of his bandmates said. The sound of his laughter floated up to her, genuine and warm. As if sensing her presence, Jonah looked up. Their eyes met across the distance, and he gave her a small wave. Izzy found herself waving back before she could think better of it. "There you are." Melissa appeared at the door. "We need you downstairs. The photographer wants some shots with your father before the ceremony." With one last look at Jonah, Izzy turned away and returned to her role as the perfect bride. The ceremony was set to begin at 4 o'clock. Guests filled the rows of white chairs set up in the vineyard. A string quartet played softly. Nathan stood at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo, the picture of a confident groom. In the bridal suite, Izzy's hands trembled as her mother fastened the cathedral-length veil to her hair. "Cold feet are normal," Eleanor assured her. "Just remember, this union isn't just about you and Nathan. It's about the future of Fielding Estates." Victor Fielding entered, resplendent in his tuxedo. "It's time, Princess," he said, offering his arm. As Izzy took her father's arm, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. The veil, the dress, the flowers. Everything perfect, everything planned, everything feeling increasingly wrong. The wedding march began to play. The doors opened, and Izzy stepped forward to the future that had been chosen for her long before she had any say in the matter. But somewhere in the back of her mind, a soulful voice sang of real feelings and genuine connections. And for the first time in her perfectly planned life, Isadora Fielding wondered if she had the courage to choose a different path. The wedding march played as Izzy took her first steps down the petal-strewn aisle. Hundreds of guests rose to their feet, turning to watch the bride's procession. Cameras flashed. People whispered about how beautiful she looked, how perfect the setting was, how powerful the Fielding-Crawford alliance would become. Victor Fielding patted his daughter's hand on his arm. "You're making me proud today, Princess," he whispered. Izzy nodded, unable to find her voice. Through her veil, she could see Nathan at the altar, smiling confidently. Next to him stood his best man, followed by 3 groomsmen in matching tuxedos. Everything was picture perfect, just as planned. But as she walked, Izzy's eyes drifted to the side of the ceremony space where Jonah and his band were set up for the reception. Though they weren't playing yet, Jonah stood watching, his guitar case at his feet. Even from a distance, his gaze felt more intimate than any look Nathan had ever given her. Suddenly, Izzy stumbled. "Steady now," Victor murmured, tightening his grip on her arm. Everyone's watching. Of course they were watching. The press had called this the society wedding of the decade. Representatives from all the major magazines were present, ready to feature the union in their publications. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a media event, a business merger, a social statement. When they reached the altar, Victor placed Izzy's hand in Nathan's with a firm nod. Nathan's fingers were cool and dry around hers. He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "You look amazing," he whispered. "The photographers are going to love these shots." As the minister began the ceremony, Izzy tried to focus on the words. Holy matrimony, sacred vows, lifelong commitment. But her mind kept drifting to the brief conversation she'd had with Jonah the night before. His words echoed in her mind. "Just singing what I feel. That's all music should be." What did she feel? Had anyone ever asked her that? "The bride and groom have chosen to recite traditional vows," the minister announced. Nathan delivered his vows perfectly, his voice clear and confident. He promised to love, honor, and cherish her, though they had never once discussed what those words meant to either of them. When it was Izzy's turn, she opened her mouth, but the words stuck in her throat. A hush fell over the gathering. "Isadora," the minister prompted gently. She swallowed hard and forced out the words, mechanical and hollow. Her mother beamed from the front row. Her father nodded approvingly. No one seemed to notice or care that there was no feeling behind her promises. The ceremony continued. Rings were exchanged. The minister pronounced them husband and wife. Nathan kissed her, a careful, camera-ready kiss that left no impression on her lips. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Nathan Crawford." Applause erupted. Izzy plastered on a smile as they walked back down the aisle together. As they passed the musicians' area, her eyes met Jonah's again. The look they exchanged lasted only a second, but in it, Izzy felt more seen than she had during the entire ceremony. The reception began immediately. While the newlyweds were whisked away for photos, guests enjoyed cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. Jonah and his band started playing soft background music. Izzy posed with Nathan against the backdrop of the vineyard, the sunset, the mansion. She smiled until her face hurt. "These are going to be spectacular," the photographer gushed. "Now, let's get some with just the bride. Nathan, if you could step aside." As Nathan moved away, Izzy felt herself relax slightly. The photographer positioned her near a flowering trellis, instructing her to look dreamy, happy, in love. She tried her best, thinking not of Nathan, but of what real happiness might feel like. "Beautiful," the photographer exclaimed. "Now let's bring the groom back in." The photo session seemed endless. By the time they joined the reception, Izzy felt exhausted. She and Nathan took their seats at the head table while Melissa, the wedding planner, signaled for Jonah to begin the evening's entertainment. Jonah stepped up to the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the band, we'd like to congratulate the newlyweds." His eyes found Izzy's. "This first song is for the couple's first dance." Nathan led Izzy to the dance floor. As they began to sway to the music, Jonah started to sing, a love song about finding your true match, about recognizing your soulmate. His voice filled the space with raw emotion that made Izzy's heart ache. "Not a bad band," Nathan commented casually, "though I still think classical would have been more appropriate." Izzy barely heard him. She was listening to the lyrics, to the passion in Jonah's voice. He sang about love as if he had experienced it, lost it, cherished it, not as if it were a business arrangement. "Smile for the cameras," Nathan reminded her, nodding toward the photographers circling them like vultures. She fixed her smile in place, but her eyes drifted to Jonah. As the song ended, he looked directly at her, and in that moment, she felt like he was singing only to her. The evening progressed with dinner, toasts, cake cutting, all the traditional elements of reception, all perfectly executed. Eleanor Fielding flitted from table to table, accepting congratulations. Victor Fielding and William Crawford were deep in conversation about their company's future plans. Nathan circulated among the business associates, already networking. During a quiet moment, Izzy slipped away from the head table, needing a break from the constant performance. She found a secluded spot near the garden, away from the lights and music. Leaning against a stone wall, she closed her eyes and took her first deep breath of the day. Needed some air? Izzy's eyes flew open. Jonas stood a few feet away, his guitar in hand. "The band's on break," he explained. "I saw you walk this way and thought you might. I don't know. Need someone to talk to. Shouldn't you be congratulating me?" Izzy asked, a hint of bitterness in her voice. Jonas stepped closer. "Is that what you want? Congratulations." Their eyes met, and the pretense fell away. "I don't know what I want," she admitted. "I've never been asked." He nodded as if he understood completely. That's the problem with lives that are planned for us. No one ever stops to ask if it's what we want. "Is that what happened to you?" A sad smile crossed his face. "Something like that. My father wanted me to take over the family business, a chain of auto repair shops. Respectable, stable. I wanted music, so you chose your own path." "I did. Lost my family support in the process, but found my voice." He strummed a quiet chord on his guitar. "What about you? Is this the life you would have chosen?" The question hung in the air between them. No one had ever asked her that before. "I don't know," she said finally. "The Fielding name comes with expectations. My whole life has been about meeting those expectations." "In your heart, what does it expect?" Before she could answer, Nathan's voice called from the reception area. "Izzy, where are you? It's time for the bouquet toss." Jonas stepped back. "Your audience awaits." "They always do," she said, echoing his word from the night before. She started to walk away, then paused. "Your music, it's so honest. Do you write your own songs?" "Most of them. I write about what I know, what I've felt. I like to hear them sometime. The ones that aren't on the approved wedding playlist." Something flickered in his eyes. "Maybe you will." Izzy returned to the reception, throwing her bouquet to a crowd of eager single women, cutting cake with Nathan, dancing with her father. But throughout it all, she was aware of Jonah watching her, his gaze a tangible thing that seemed to touch her soul. Later, when the band began playing again, Izzy found herself drawn to the music. Jonah performed with his whole being, each song telling a story that seemed to speak directly to her. During a slow, soulful number, she noticed Nathan deep in conversation with his father and several business associates, completely oblivious to the music. "May I have this dance?" Izzy turned to find her father holding out his hand. "Of course, Dad," she said, accepting his offer. As they danced, Victor studied his daughter's face. "You seem distracted, Princess. Is everything all right?" "Just overwhelmed," she replied. "It's been a big day. The biggest. The Crawford connection will take Fielding Estates to new heights. William and I have already discussed expanding into the Asian market with a new line of tech-enhanced wine experiences. Of course, even her wedding dance with her father was about business." "Is that why you wanted me to marry Nathan?" she asked quietly. "For the business?" Victor looked surprised. "It's a good match, Isadora. The Crawfords are a powerful family. Nathan is a good man. But do you think he loves me? Do you think I love him?" Her father's steps faltered slightly. "Love is a luxury, Princess. Your mother and I had an arranged introduction, too. Affection grows with time. Are you and Mom in love now?" Victor's eyes drifted to Eleanor, who was charming a group of Crawford relatives. "We have a successful marriage. We've built an empire together. That's more valuable than fleeting emotions." The song ended, and Victor kissed her cheek. "Be practical, Isadora. You've made the right choice today." But had she chosen anything? Or had all the choices been made for her? As the evening wore on, Izzy found it increasingly difficult to maintain her smile. She watched Jonah perform, his passion evident in every note. She watched Nathan network, his passion evident only when discussing business opportunities. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. During the band's final break, Izzy noticed Jonah slip outside. Without thinking, she followed him. She found him sitting on a stone bench in the garden, playing a soft melody on his guitar. He looked up as she approached, but didn't stop playing. "That's beautiful," she said, sitting beside him. "Is it one of yours?" He nodded. "It's new. Still working on it." "Does it have lyrics?" "Some. It's about recognizing something real when you find it, even if the timing is wrong." Their eyes met, and the air between them seemed to crackle with unspoken words. "Play for me," she asked. Jonah hesitated, then began to sing softly. The song was hauntingly beautiful, a story of two souls recognizing each other in a crowded room, connecting despite circumstances keeping them apart. His voice was low, intimate, meant only for her ears. When he finished, silence hung between them, heavy with emotion. "That's not the kind of song you play at weddings," Izzy said finally. "No," he agreed. "It's the kind you play for someone you wish you'd met sooner." The implication was clear. Izzy felt her heart racing. "Jonah, Mrs. Crawford?" Melissa's voice cut through the moment. "Your husband is looking for you. It's almost time for your departure." Izzy stood quickly, reality crashing back. "I'll be right there." Melissa nodded and hurried away. "Jonah, I don't know what to say." He placed his guitar in its case. "You don't have to say anything. We've both made our choices." "Have I?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Jonah looked at her intently. "Only you can answer that." They walked back to the reception together, maintaining a careful distance. As they reached the edge of the party, Jonah paused. "Which room is yours?" "In the house." The question surprised her. "The east wing, third door on the right." "What?" "Just curious about how the other half lives," he said with a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. Nathan was waiting, his expression impatient. "There you are. We need to leave soon if we're going to make it to the hotel before midnight." "I'm sorry, I just needed some air." "Well, get ready for the send-off." Everyone's lining up with sparklers. The next hour passed in a blur. Izzy changed from her wedding gown into a designer traveling suit. She and Nathan ran through a tunnel of sparklers held by cheering guests, climbed into a waiting limousine, and departed for their wedding night at an exclusive hotel before their morning flight to Santorini. In the back of the limo, Nathan immediately pulled out his phone. "Just need to check on a few emails. The Tokyo deal might be closing tonight." Izzy stared out the window as the Fielding estate disappeared behind them. She thought of Jonah's song, of the connection she'd felt, of the question that kept repeating in her mind. Had she ever truly chosen anything for herself? At the hotel, a luxury suite awaited them. Champagne on ice, rose petals scattered across the bed. Nathan loosened his tie and poured himself a drink. "Successful day," he said, raising his glass in a toast. "The press coverage was excellent. Is that what matters most to you?" Izzy asked. "The press coverage?" Nathan looked surprised. "Of course it matters. Our wedding was a statement." "Izzy, the Fielding-Crawford union is going to make waves in both industries." "What about us?" "The actual marriage." He shrugged. "What about it? We make a good team. You're beautiful. I'm successful. We'll have beautiful, successful children who will inherit both empires." It was the most honest he'd ever been with her. No pretense of romance, just a business plan with biological outcomes. "I'm tired," Izzy said. "I think I'll take a bath." In the marble bathroom, she stared at her reflection. Mrs. Nathan Crawford. A new name, a new title, but the same feeling of emptiness. She sank into the hot water and let tears silently stream down her face. When she emerged, Nathan was already in bed, scrolling through his phone. He barely looked up as she slipped under the covers on her side, maintaining a careful distance between them. "Big day tomorrow. Early flight," he said, setting an alarm. "Good night, Mrs. Crawford." "Good night," she whispered. As she lay in the dark, Izzy thought of Jonah's song, of the passion in his voice, of the way he had looked at her, as if truly seeing her. She thought of the life stretching before her. More events, more photo opportunities, more business connections, all with a man who had never once asked what she wanted. Morning came too soon. They checked out of the hotel and returned to Fielding Estate to collect their luggage before heading to the airport. The mansion was quiet after the previous day's festivities. Most of the wedding guests had departed. The staff was cleaning up the last evidence of the celebration. "I'll just be a moment," Izzy told Nathan as they entered the house. "I need to grab a few things from my room. Make it quick. The private jet is waiting." Izzy hurried to her bedroom, gathering the last of her personal items. As she opened the door to leave, she noticed a small white envelope that had been slipped under the door. Her name was written on it in unfamiliar handwriting. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Inside was a handwritten note and a single line of music, notes drawn carefully on a staff. "If I had the right to love you, I would." Izzy's heart stopped. Jonah. It had to be from him. She read the words again, tracing them with her fingertip. In those few simple words was more truth, more feeling than in all the vows she had exchanged yesterday. The line of music, she couldn't read it, couldn't hear what it would sound like. But she knew it was part of the song he had played for her in the garden. Their song. "Izzy," Nathan called from downstairs. "We need to go now." She stared at the note, at the evidence that someone had seen her, really seen her, and connected with her soul. And in that moment, Isadora Fielding felt something real for the first time in her carefully curated life. She carefully folded the note and slipped it into her pocket. A decision was forming in her mind, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "Coming," she called, her voice stronger than it had been in months. As she descended the stairs to meet her husband of less than 24 hours, Izzy knew that everything was about to change. The note in her pocket felt like a talisman, a reminder that somewhere in the world, there was something real waiting for her, if she had the courage to reach for it. "There you are," Nathan said impatiently as Izzy descended the stairs. "The car is waiting." Izzy clutched her purse tightly, feeling the note from Jonah inside. "Nathan, do we have to leave right away? I'm feeling a little overwhelmed." Nathan checked his watch. "The jet is scheduled for takeoff in 2 hours. Besides, your mother has arranged that blessing ceremony at the chapel before we leave, remember? For the exclusive magazine shoot." Izzy had forgotten. The wedding yesterday had been the legal ceremony, but Eleanor had arranged a second, more elaborate blessing ceremony this morning specifically for the society magazines that hadn't gotten enough footage yesterday. It was to be an intimate renewal of vows just hours after the original ones, purely for publicity. "Right?" Izzy said. "The blessing ceremony. Your mother's in the kitchen with the photographer. They're waiting for us." Nathan straightened his tie. "Let's get this over with so we can start our honeymoon." Get this over with. His words echoed in her mind. Was it all their marriage would be? A series of obligations to get over with? In the kitchen, Eleanor Fielding was directing staff and speaking with a photographer from Society Life magazine. "There she is," Eleanor exclaimed when she saw Izzy. "My beautiful daughter. We need to hurry. Your dress is ready upstairs. The magazine wants the ceremony to start at 11 sharp for the lighting." "Mom, can I talk to you for a minute?" "Alone?" Izzy asked. Eleanor waved her hand dismissively. "Whatever it is can wait, darling. We're on a tight schedule. It's important." Eleanor sighed dramatically, but followed Izzy into the study. "What is it?" "The car is waiting, the chapel is ready, and the magazine is paying a fortune for exclusive photos." Izzy took a deep breath. "Mom, I'm not sure about this. About any of it. What are you talking about?" "This marriage. It doesn't feel right." Eleanor's face hardened. "Not this again. We talked about this yesterday. Marriage isn't about feelings, Isadora. It's about making the right choice for your future, for the family's future." "But what if it's the wrong choice for me?" "Don't be ridiculous. Nathan is handsome, wealthy, from a good family. The Crawfords' connections will take Fielding Estates International." Eleanor placed her hands on Izzy's shoulders. "This is just honeymoon jitters. Every bride gets them. It's more than that. Enough." Eleanor's voice was sharp. "You made your commitment yesterday. The papers are signed. The press releases have gone out. The Fielding-Crawford merger is already being reported in the financial news." She softened her tone. "Just get through the blessing ceremony. Go on your honeymoon. You'll feel differently after a week in Santorini." Before Izzy could argue further, the door opened and Victor Fielding entered. "There you are. What's the holdup?" "The photographer is getting impatient. Your daughter is having second thoughts." Eleanor said coldly. Victor's expression darkened. Second thoughts? After we've invested over $1 million in this wedding? After we've announced the merger? Dad, Listen to me, Isadora. Victor cut her off. This isn't just about you. This is about the future of Fielding Estates. The contracts are signed. The Crawford family's investment is already earmarked for our Asian expansion. So this really was just a business merger, Izzy said quietly. Victor had the grace to look uncomfortable. It's a beneficial arrangement for everyone. The Crawfords get our wine empire legacy. We get their tech resources and international connections. And what do I get? Security, status, a suitable husband, everything a woman could want. Victor checked his watch. Now go upstairs and get ready. We have a schedule to keep. Izzy felt trapped. Her parents weren't listening, had never truly listened. She thought of Jonah's note in her purse, of the genuine connection she'd felt, of the spark of something real amidst all this artifice. Fine, she said finally. I'll get ready. Upstairs, a stylist waited to help her into a second wedding dress. This one even more elaborate than yesterday's, designed specifically for the magazine photo shoot. As she was buttoned into the gown, Izzy stared at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back was a stranger, a doll dressed up for other people's purposes. When the stylist stepped out to get the veil, Izzy quickly retrieved Jonah's note from her purse. Reading it again, she felt a surge of certainty. This small piece of paper contained more truth than anything in her relationship with Nathan. The chapel was a small stone building at the edge of the Fielding property. It had been decorated with even more flowers than yesterday's ceremony. White roses, orchids, and lilies creating a fragrant, picture-perfect setting. A small string quartet played softly as guests. Mostly family members and a few close friends who had stayed overnight took their seats. Nathan waited at the altar, looking handsome but impatient in a different designer suit. The photographer circled, capturing shots from every angle. In the small anteroom, Izzy waited with her father. Through the door, she could see the assembled guests, the flowers, the altar, all the trappings of a perfect wedding. But it felt hollow, empty like a stage set. Ready, princess? Victor asked, offering his arm. Izzy hesitated. Her whole life had been about meeting expectations, following the path laid out for her. The Fielding name, the family legacy, the carefully orchestrated future. But Jonah's words echoed in her mind. That's the problem with lives that are planned for us. No one ever stops to ask if it's what we want. What did she want? The music changed to the wedding march. The doors opened. All eyes turned to her. It's time, Victor whispered, tugging gently on her arm. As if in a dream, Izzy began walking down the aisle. Each step felt heavier than the last. Nathan watched her approach, his smile camera-ready, but his eyes already drifting to his watch. Behind him, through the chapel window, Izzy could see the garden where she and Jonah had sat the night before, where he had played her the song that had touched her soul. She reached the altar. Victor placed her hand in Nathan's with a firm nod, just as he had yesterday. But today, Nathan's touch felt cold, foreign. The minister began to speak. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to bless the union of Nathan and Isadora, who were joined in matrimony yesterday. They have chosen to renew their vows in this intimate ceremony before beginning their new life together. The words washed over her. New life together. What would that life be like? Business events, photo opportunities, conversations about mergers and acquisitions, children raised by nannies while she and Nathan pursued their separate ambitions. A marriage in name only. Nathan and Isadora have prepared personal vows for this blessing ceremony. The minister continued. Nathan, would you like to begin? Nathan cleared his throat and began reciting words clearly written by a publicist. Flowery phrases about partnership and future that never once mentioned love. When he finished, the minister turned to Izzy. Isadora, would you like to share your vows? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The chapel was silent, waiting. She could feel her mother's stern gaze, her father's expectant one. The photographer's camera pointed directly at her. And suddenly, with crystal clarity, she knew. I can't, she said, her voice surprisingly strong. A murmur ran through the small gathering. Nathan's expression froze. "Excuse me?" the minister asked, clearly thinking he had misheard. "I can't do this." Izzy turned to face the assembled guests. "I am sorry. I can't go through with this." The photographer's camera clicked rapidly, capturing the moment. Eleanor half rose from her seat, her face a mask of horror. William Crawford's mouth fell open in shock. "Izzy," Nathan hissed. "What are you doing?" "Everyone is watching." "I know," she said. "Everyone's always watching. But for once, I need to do what's right for me." She turned to the guests again. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I'm sorry for the embarrassment this will cause. But I would be more sorry to live a lie for the rest of my life." With those words, she gathered her skirts and walked back down the aisle, her steps quickening as she neared the door. Behind her, chaos erupted. Her mother called her name. Her father demanded she come back. Nathan stood frozen at the altar, his expression more annoyed than heartbroken. Once outside the chapel, Izzy broke into a run, her elaborate dress billowing behind her. She had no plan, no destination in mind. She only knew she needed to get away from the suffocating expectations that had defined her entire life. As she ran past the main house toward the vineyard, she caught sight of a familiar figure. Jonah was walking toward the staff parking area, guitar case in hand. He was leaving. "Jonah," she called out. He turned, his expression changing from surprise to confusion as he saw her running toward him in her wedding dress. "Izzy, what's happening? Aren't you supposed to be on your way to your honeymoon?" She stopped in front of him, breathless. "I couldn't do it." "Couldn't do what?" "Any of it. The marriage. The life they planned for me." She reached into her pocket and pulled out his note. "You gave me the only truth I've ever been handed." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You left him? At the altar?" "Technically, it was a blessing ceremony for a magazine. We were already legally married yesterday." She gave a small, slightly hysterical laugh. "But yes, I left him. In front of everyone." Jonah ran a hand through his hair. "Izzy, I never meant for you to." "Yes, you did," she interrupted. "You left me that note knowing exactly what it might do. You felt it too, didn't you? This connection between us." He hesitated, then nodded. "From the first moment I saw you." "But Izzy, I'm not part of your world." "Then let's make our own," she said, echoing the words from the note. "I don't want that world anymore. I want something real." Jonah looked at her intently, searching her face. "Are you sure? You're walking away from everything. Your family, your inheritance, your whole life." "I'm walking towards something better. Something true." He stepped closer to her, reaching up to touch her face. "This is crazy, you know that, right? We barely know each other. I know more about you from 2 conversations than I learned about Nathan in 6 months of engagement. I know you have the courage to follow your heart, to choose your own path. I know your music speaks to something inside me that I didn't even know was there." Jonah's eyes softened. He leaned forward, and their lips met in a kiss that sent electricity through Izzy's body. Unlike the practiced, camera-ready kiss she had shared with Nathan, this was real, messy, passionate, alive. As they pulled apart, Izzy's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out to see a text from her father. "You've been cut off. The Crawfords want to sue. Come home. Now." Jonah saw the message over her shoulder. His expression grew serious. "You sure you want to do this? Your father's not bluffing. You're giving up everything." Izzy looked at the message, then back at Jonah. The choice was clear. "I didn't say yes to him," she said firmly, "but I'm saying yes to you." She took his hand, and together they walked toward his car. Behind them, she could hear voices calling her name. Her mother, her father, the wedding planner. But she didn't look back. As they reached Jonah's car, a modest sedan nothing like the luxury vehicle she was used to, reality began to set in. She was walking away from everything she had ever known. Her family, her inheritance, her identity as a Fielding. "Where will we go?" she asked as Jonah opened the passenger door for her. "I have a small apartment in Oakland. Nothing fancy, but it's home." "And then what?" He smiled. "I have a gig tonight at a club downtown. Not exactly the high society events you're used to." "Good," she said firmly. "I want something different. Something real." As they drove away from Fielding Estate, Izzy watched the mansion recede in the side mirror. Eleanor had emerged from the chapel, and was gesturing wildly. Victor stood on the steps, his face dark with anger. Nathan was nowhere to be seen, probably already on the phone with his lawyers. "They'll try to find us," she said. "My father doesn't give up easily." "Are you afraid?" Jonah asked. "No," she realized, surprised at the certainty in her voice. "For the first time in my life, I'm not afraid. I'm free." Jonah reached across and took her hand. "It won't be easy, you know. My life isn't glamorous. I play gigs in small clubs, teach music lessons to pay the bills. No private jets or five-star hotels. I don't need those things," Izzy said. "I never did. They were just distractions from the emptiness I felt inside." She squeezed his hand. "Tell me about your apartment." As Jonah described his modest one-bedroom place with its view of a brick wall and the upstairs neighbor who practiced trumpet at midnight, Izzy found herself smiling. It sounded nothing like the sterile luxury she had known all her life, and everything like a real home. Her phone buzzed again. More texts from her father, each one more threatening than the last. She turned the phone off and tossed it into her purse. "I should probably find somewhere to change," she said, looking down at her elaborate wedding dress. "I'm not exactly dressed for a quick getaway." Jonah laughed. "There's a mall about 20 minutes from here. We can stop and get you something a little less bridal." As they drove, Izzy felt a strange sense of peace wash over her. She had no plan, no security, no certainty about the future. But she had something she had never truly had before. Choice. Her choice. And the freedom to follow her heart wherever it might lead. When they stopped at a red light, Jonah turned to her. "Play me that line of music I wrote for you." She looked confused. "I can't read music." "You don't need to." He hummed the melody he had written on the note. "That's it. That's the heart of the song I was working on. The song about finding something real when you least expect it." Izzy closed her eyes, letting the melody wash over her. It was beautiful, haunting, filled with longing and hope. It was everything her relationship with Nathan had not been. "Will you finish it?" she asked. "The song. I think we'll finish it together," he said, and the light turned green. As they drove toward an uncertain future, Izzy knew there would be consequences for her choice. Her family might never forgive her. The social circles she had moved in would be scandalized. The financial security she had taken for granted was gone. But in its place was something far more valuable. The chance to build a life based on genuine connection, on real feelings, on her own choices. Her phone began ringing from inside her purse, probably her mother calling for the 20th time. She ignored it. "No regrets?" Jonah asked, glancing at her as the sound continued. Izzy looked out at the road ahead, then back at Jonah, at his kind eyes, his talented hands on the steering wheel, his quiet confidence in following his own path. "No regrets," she said firmly, and meant it. The Fielding estate disappeared behind them as they drove toward Oakland, toward a future neither of them could predict, but both had chosen. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be real. And for Izzy, that made all the difference. Back at the chapel, chaos reigned. Eleanor Fielding had collapsed into a chair, fanning herself dramatically. Victor was on the phone with his lawyers. William Crawford was threatening to withdraw all investments in Fielding Estates. The photographer from Society Life was snapping pictures of the drama, already planning the explosive headline, "Runaway Bride. Heiress abandons tech billionaire at altar." Nathan, meanwhile, had loosened his tie and poured himself a drink. "Well," he said to no one in particular, "that's going to be awkward to explain to the board." But Izzy and Jonah were already miles away, the note that had changed everything safely tucked in her pocket, a reminder that sometimes the greatest courage isn't in saying yes to what others want for you, but in saying yes to what your heart knows is right. Jonah's apartment in Oakland was exactly as he had described it, small, modestly furnished, with a view of a brick wall from the living room window. But to Izzy, it felt more like home than the mansion she had grown up in. "It's not much," Jonah said apologetically as he unlocked the door, "especially compared to what you're used to." Izzy stepped inside, taking in the music posters on the walls, the worn but comfortable-looking couch, the keyboard in the corner, and guitar stands holding 3 different instruments. Sheet music was scattered across a small coffee table. It was lived in, personal reel. I love it, she said, and meant it. She had changed out of her wedding dress at a mall, buying simple jeans and a t-shirt with the emergency cash she kept in her wallet. The elaborate gown was stuffed into a shopping bag, a remnant of the life she had left behind. "Are you hungry?" Jonah asked. "I can make us something." "Starving," Izzy admitted. "I was too nervous to eat anything this morning." While Jonah prepared a simple meal of pasta and sauce, Izzy wandered around the apartment, looking at photos and mementos. On a shelf, she found a framed picture of a younger Jonah with an older couple, his parents, she guessed, standing in front of an auto repair shop. "Your family?" she asked, holding up the picture. Jonah looked up from the stove. "Yeah, that was taken right before I told them I was leaving the family business to pursue music. The last photo of us together. Do you ever see them?" He stirred the pasta. "Not in years. My father said if I walked away from the business, I was walking away from the family." "I'm sorry," Izzy said softly. "It was hard at first. Really hard. But I had to follow my own path." He looked at her with understanding. "Like you did today." After dinner, Jonah explained that he had to get ready for his gig at a local club. "You can stay here if you want," he offered. "Rest. It's been an intense day." "No way," Izzy said firmly. "I want to see you perform. The real you, not the wedding band version." The club was small and crowded, nothing like the elegant venues Izzy was accustomed to. The stage was tiny, the lighting basic, the audience packed in tightly at small tables. No one recognized her here. She wasn't Isadora Fielding, heiress to a wine empire. She was just another face in the crowd. When Jonah took the stage with his band, the transformation was immediate. Gone was the reserved musician from the wedding, replaced by an artist completely in his element. He played with passion, sang with raw emotion, connected with the audience in a way that made every person feel like he was singing directly to them. But when his eyes found Izzy in the crowd, there was a special connection that made her heart race. He played several original songs, including the one he had started writing for her. With the full band behind him, it became something even more powerful, a story of unexpected connection, of finding courage to follow your heart. After the show, as Jonah packed up his equipment, fans approached him for autographs and photos. He was clearly respected in this world, even if it wasn't the high society circle Izzy had moved in. "You were amazing," she told him when they were finally alone. "That's the real you up there, isn't it?" He nodded. "Music is where I can be completely honest. No filters, no pretending." "I want that," Izzy said. "To find something that makes me feel that alive." "You will," he promised. "You just need the freedom to discover what it is." Freedom. The word resonated with her. For the first time in her life, she was truly free to make her own choices, to discover who she really was apart from the Fielding name and all its expectations. The next morning, reality began to set in. Izzy turned on her phone to find dozens of missed calls and texts from her parents, from Nathan, from the wedding planner, even from reporters seeking a statement about her dramatic exit. "They're all looking for me," she said, scrolling through the messages. "Are you going to call them back?" Jonah asked cautiously. Izzy thought for a moment. "Not yet. I need time to figure out what I want to say." But time wasn't something her family was willing to give her. That afternoon, as Jonah was teaching a guitar lesson in the living room, a sharp knock came at the door. Izzy opened it to find her father standing in the hallway, his expression thunderous. "Dad," she said, surprised. "How did you find me? You think I don't have resources?" Victor Fielding stepped past her into the apartment, looking around with barely disguised disdain. "So this is what you left everything for?" Jonah excused himself from his student and came to stand beside Izzy. "Mr. Fielding," he said calmly, "I'm Jonah Price." "I know exactly who you are," Victor said coldly. "The musician who seduced my daughter away from her husband." "That's not what happened," Izzy protested. "It was my choice to leave. A choice that has cost this family millions," Victor countered. "The Crawfords have withdrawn all investments. The merger is off. Your mother is a wreck. And the press is having a field day with the scandal." "I'm sorry for the pain I've caused," Izzy said. "But I couldn't live a lie." "A lie?" Victor's voice rose. "You had everything. A successful husband, financial security, social standing. What more could you possibly want?" Something real, Izzy said simply. What I had with Nathan wasn't real. It was arranged like a business deal. That's exactly what it was, Victor admitted bluntly. And a very good one. The Fielding-Crawford alliance would have secured our family's future for generations. But at what cost? My happiness? My chance to find out who I really am. Victor's expression hardened. I didn't raise you to be so selfish. The Fielding name comes with responsibilities. And what about your responsibility to me? Izzy asked. To want me to be happy. I wanted what was best for you. No, Dad. You wanted what was best for Fielding Estates. Victor looked between Izzy and Jonah, his eyes cold. I've come to give you one chance to fix this. Come home now. We'll release a statement about wedding day jitters, get the marriage annulled quietly, and find a way to salvage the Crawford deal. And if I don't, then you're cut off. Completely. No money, no access to your trust fund, no place in the family business. You'll be on your own. Izzy felt Jonah tense beside her, but he remained silent, letting her fight her own battle. I've been on my own for a long time, Dad, she said quietly. Surrounded by people, but completely alone. At least now I have a chance at something genuine. Victor's face reddened. You're throwing away generations of work, of building the Fielding name, for this guitar player? I'm not throwing anything away. I'm finding myself. Izzy took a deep breath. I love you, Dad. I always will. But I can't come home. Not if it means going back to that empty life. For a moment, something flickered in Victor's eyes, perhaps a glimmer of understanding, or maybe just disappointment. Then his expression hardened again. You've made your choice, he said coldly. Don't come crying to me when this fantasy falls apart. He reached into his pocket and tossed a folded newspaper on the coffee table. Enjoy your 15 minutes of fame. With that, he turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Izzy's hands trembled as she picked up the newspaper. On the front page of the society section was a photo of her running from the chapel in her wedding dress. The headline read, Fielding heiress leaves billionaire at altar for band member. I'm sorry, Jonas said, putting an arm around her shoulders. Are you okay? Izzy stared at the photo. The woman running from the chapel looked terrified, but also somehow alive in a way the perfectly posed bride in yesterday's wedding photos had not been. I think I will be, she said. Eventually, the days that followed were difficult. Izzy's credit cards stopped working. Her phone rang constantly with calls from reporters seeking interviews. Eleanor sent a series of increasingly emotional texts, alternating between anger and pleading. Nathan's lawyers contacted her about the terms of an annulment. But in the midst of the chaos, Izzy began to discover pieces of herself that had been buried under years of expectations. She found she had a decent singing voice and enjoyed harmonizing with Jonah during his practice sessions. She discovered a talent for organization and began helping him manage his performance schedule and teaching appointments. 2 weeks after her dramatic exit, Izzy received an unexpected visitor, her grandmother, Rose Fielding, the family matriarch who had built Fielding Estates alongside her late husband. Grandma Rose, Izzy said in surprise when she opened the door. Did Dad send you? The elegant older woman shook her head. Your father doesn't know I'm here. May I come in? Izzy welcomed her into the apartment. Rose looked around with curiosity rather than judgment. So this is where you've been hiding, she said. It's cozy. It's small, but it feels like a home, Izzy said. Can I get you some tea? Please. While Izzy prepared the tea, Rose studied the photos on the shelves and the music scattered around the room. Your young man is a musician? She asked. Yes. He's teaching right now, but he'll be back soon. Rose nodded. I'd like to meet him. Over tea. Rose explained her visit. I wanted to see for myself if you were okay. Your father is furious. Your mother is devastated. And the society pages are having a field day. But none of them are asking the most important question, which is, are you happy, Izzy? The simple question brought tears to Izzy's eyes. I am, Grandma. For the first time, I feel like I'm living my own life, not just following a script someone else wrote for me. Rose nodded thoughtfully. You know, I felt something similar once. Before I met your grandfather, my parents had arranged for me to marry the son of a banking family. Everything was set, the engagement announced, the wedding planned, but I couldn't go through with it. What happened? I met Robert Fielding at a charity event. He was a farmer then, just starting to plant his first vineyards. Nothing like the wealthy banker my parents had chosen. But he had dreams, passion. When we were together, I felt alive. She smiled at the memory. My parents disowned me when I broke off my engagement to be with him. I never knew that, Izzy said in wonder. It's not a story your father likes to remember. It doesn't fit with the polished Fielding image he's created. Rose reached in her purse and pulled out an envelope. I didn't come empty-handed. This is for you. Izzy opened the envelope to find a check for a substantial amount. Grandma, I can't accept this. Of course you can. It's your trust fund. But Dad said, your father doesn't control that money. I do. It was set up when you were born, with me as trustee until you turned 30. Rose's eyes twinkled. A precaution I took, knowing how controlling your father can be. But won't he be angry with you? Rose waved her hand dismissively. Victor has been angry with me since the day I told him he couldn't have a pony because it would spoil him. I can handle it. Izzy laughed through her tears. This money is yours, Izzy. Use it to build the life you want, not the one your father planned for you. Rose's expression grew serious. But be sure this is really what you want. Not just an escape from one life, but a genuine choice for another. It is, Izzy said with certainty. What I feel with Jonah, the person I'm becoming when I'm with him, it's real. When Jonah returned from his teaching session, Izzy introduced him to her grandmother. To her surprise, Rose and Jonah hit it off immediately, discussing music, family expectations, and following one's passion. You remind me of my Robert, Rose told Jonah. He followed his dream too, even when everyone said he was crazy to plant vineyards in that valley. Before she left, Rose took Izzy's hands in hers. Give her father time. He's stubborn, but he loves you. And when you're ready, I hope you'll come visit the estate. It's still your heritage, even if you've chosen a different path. With her grandmother's support and the security of her trust fund, Izzy began to build a new life. She enrolled in classes at a local community college, exploring subjects she'd never been allowed to study. She discovered a passion for music management and began helping Jonah and other local musicians book gigs and navigate contracts. Jonah's career began to flourish with Izzy's support. His band got a regular weekend spot at a popular club, and a record producer expressed interest in his original songs. Through it all, their connection deepened, built on mutual respect and genuine affection rather than social expectations. 3 months after the wedding that wasn't, Izzy received a text from an unexpected source. Nathan, can we meet? Need to talk. Curious and a little apprehensive, Izzy agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. Jonah offered to come with her, but she decided to go alone. Nathan was waiting when she arrived, looking much the same, but somehow less polished than she remembered. The perfect veneer had slipped a bit. Thanks for coming, he said as she sat down across from him. What did you want to talk about? Izzy asked. Nathan took a sip of his coffee. I wanted to let you know the annulment went through. Officially, we were never married. Thank you for handling that. Also, I'm seeing someone. He seemed almost nervous. Her name is Rebecca. She works in our marketing department. We've been spending a lot of time together since the wedding. That's good, Nathan. I'm happy for you. He looked surprised. You are? Of course. I want you to be happy. Nathan studied her face. You know, it's strange. When you left me at the altar, I was angry about the embarrassment, the business implications, what my father would say. But I wasn't heartbroken. He gave a small, self-deprecating laugh. That probably says everything about why you were right to leave. We would have been miserable together, Izzy said gently. Probably. He hesitated. Rebecca and I. It's different. We actually talk. About real things, not just business and appearances. I'm glad you found something real. Is that what you have? With a musician? Izzy nodded. Yes. It's not perfect. We argue sometimes. Money is tight, even with my trust fund. But it's honest. What you see is what you get with Jonah. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. Well, I hope it works out for you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. I thought you might want this back. Inside was her engagement ring, a massive diamond that had felt more like a shackle than a symbol of love. Sell it, Izzy said. Donate the money to music education programs. That would mean more to me than having it back. Nathan looked surprised but nodded. I can do that. As they parted ways, Izzy felt a sense of closure. The life she had almost had, the perfect society marriage, the business alliance, the carefully curated image, seemed like a distant dream now. Walking back to the apartment she now shared with Jonah, Izzy felt a lightness in her step. The past 3 months hadn't been easy. There had been tears, doubts, arguments, adjustments. Building a real relationship was much harder than following a prescribed path. But it was also infinitely more rewarding. Every day brought new discoveries about herself, about Jonah, about what she wanted from life. The connection between them had deepened into something far more substantial than the instant attraction that had sparked at the wedding. When she entered the apartment, Jonah was at the keyboard, working on a new song. He looked up and smiled when she came in, that same genuine smile that had first caught her attention. "How did it go with Nathan?" he asked. "Good, actually. He's seeing someone new, someone he actually connects with. And how do you feel about that?" "Happy for him." She sat beside Jonah at the keyboard. "The annulment is final. We were never legally married. So you're a free woman." "I've been free since the moment I ran out of that chapel." She leaned against his shoulder. "What are you working on?" "A new song. Want to hear it?" As Jonah played, Izzy closed her eyes and let the music wash over her. This was what had been missing from her carefully planned life. Passion, creativity, genuine connection. The path ahead wasn't clear or certain. There would be challenges, disappointments, hard days. But there would also be music, and truth, and love that grew from choice rather than obligation. 6 months after her almost wedding, Izzy received a surprising invitation to the annual Fielding Estates Harvest Festival. It came not from her father, but from Grandma Rose, along with a note. "Your father is ready to talk. Come home just for a visit. Are you going to go?" Jonah asked when she showed him the invitation. "I think so. It's time." She looked at him anxiously. "Will you come with me?" He hesitated. "Are you sure that's a good idea? I want them to meet the real you, not just the wedding band musician or the man who stole me away. I want them to see what I see." The day of the festival arrived, and Izzy felt a strange mixture of nostalgia and anxiety as they drove through the gates of Fielding Estate. The vineyards were golden in the autumn sunlight, the familiar landscape both welcoming and intimidating. Grandma Rose met them at the entrance, embracing Izzy warmly and extending a hand to Jonah. "I'm so glad you both came," she said. "Your father is in the main tent with the important buyers. He knows you're here." As they walked through the festival, Izzy was surprised by how many people greeted her warmly. The staff, the longtime employees, the neighbors, they seemed genuinely happy to see her, with no judgment about her dramatic exit from her wedding. In the main tent, Victor Fielding was holding court with a group of wine distributors. He looked up as Izzy and Jonah entered, his expression unreadable. Excusing himself from the group, he approached them. "Isadora," he said formally. "You came." "Hi, Dad," she replied. "This is Jonah." Properly introduced this time. Victor nodded stiffly to Jonah, but didn't offer his hand. "Your mother will want to know you're here. She's overseeing the silent auction in the south tent." "I'll find her later," Izzy said. "How are you, Dad? How's the business?" A flicker of surprise crossed Victor's face at her direct question. "We've had some adjustments to make since the Crawford deal fell through, but we're adapting." "I'm sorry about that," Izzy said sincerely. "I never wanted to hurt the business." Victor studied her face. "You look well." "I am well. Happy, actually." An awkward silence fell between them. Then, unexpectedly, Victor turned to Jonah. "I understand your band has been getting some attention lately. Rose mentioned a record deal." Jonah looked surprised at the question. "Not quite a deal yet, but there's interest. We're recording a demo next month." "I see." Victor seemed to be struggling with what to say next. "And you're still teaching as well?" "Yes, sir. I have about 20 regular students now." Victor nodded, then turned back to Izzy. "Your mother has been following your new venture online, the music management company." Now it was Izzy's turn to be surprised. "Yes, Authentic Sounds. We're small but growing. I'm helping local musicians book gigs, negotiate contracts, build their careers." "Using your business degree after all," Victor observed. Yes, but on my own terms. Something shifted in Victor's expression, a reluctant respect, perhaps. The harvest has been good this year. Would you like to try the new vintage? Both of you. It was a small olive branch, but Izzy recognized it for what it was. We like that, Dad. As Victor led them to the tasting room, Izzy felt Jonah squeeze her hand. The road to reconciliation with her family would be long and likely never complete. Her father might never fully understand or approve of her choices. But this was a start. Later, as they walked through the vineyard at sunset, Jonah pulled Izzy close. "Thank you for bringing me here," he said, "for sharing this part of your life with me." "Thank you for giving me the courage to find my own path," she replied. "That note you slipped under my door changed everything." Jonah smiled. "If I had the right to love you, I would," he quoted. "I think I've earned that right now." "You have," Izzy agreed, reaching up to kiss him. "And I've earned the right to love myself enough to choose what's real." As the sun set over Fielding Estate, painting the vineyard in golden light, Izzy thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. The note that had undone her vows had led her not to disaster, as her parents had feared, but to discovery of herself, of genuine connection, of the courage to write her own story. It wasn't the life that had been planned for her. It was better. It was real, and it was hers. The end.